What we call Patimokkha is the set of the 227 main rules of the Vinaya, which naturally comprises 10 rules. A layman could very well cope with the Patimokkha, but if he succeeds in adopting such a behavior, it will mean that he already became a monk. In that case, it would be completely absurd on his side not to be ordained, because as each of us knows, it is above all the behavior that makes the monk and not otherwise. We could also say that what makes the monk is the understanding of reality, wisdom and the realizations. Always, the main point lies in that without sila, it is vain to expect to develop any of these elements. At the time of Buddha, the first monks who joined the Sangha had a blameless behavior. Their sila was pure. The Patimokkha did not exist, its observance was unneeded. But as soon as less virtuous individuals entered the Sangha and started to perform less praiseworthy actions, did Buddha establish such rules as a consequence. So, the points of the Patimokkha deal with the carelessness or heedlessness that lead us astray from the right path, the one of liberation. Bhavana. Once dana and sila have been firmly established, there is nothing else that ought to be done save training in bhavana, until the end. Bhavana means development of the concentration. There are 2 types of concentrations. The samatha samadhi and the karnika samadhi. Samadhi meaning transparency of the mind caused by a deep concentration. Samatha. The samatha samadhi is the result of a continuous concentration focused on a single object. It is a difficult exercise that requires a powerful determination and a complete silence. This consideration can cause ecstatic sensations and a few casual experiences that could be described as sensations of luminosity, thoughtlessness and remarkable serenity. When it bears its beneficial fruits, it can cause the yogi to experience one or several jhanas, which are mental realizations of pure concentration, where physical phenomena do no longer appear, according to the degree of refinement of such realizations. For all these reasons, these practices do worldwide enjoy a popularity among large numbers of followers, via a variety of religious schools. Nevertheless, not only jhanas are lost as soon as the training and absorption into them is interrupted, but moreover, they do not enable us to develop wisdom and do not lead us at all to the definitive cessation of the suffering. Karnika. On the contrary, the karnika samadhi allows to acquire the right knowledge of reality. Thus, it does beget, as a consequence, the development of wisdom. This kind of concentration becomes established by a focusing of the attention on the physical and mental phenomena that are being perceived, whatever they are. It is about a concentration with rehearsal, which deepens owing to the uninterrupted succession of the moments of sustenance of the attention on phenomena. The training lying in developing the karnika samadhi is called the satipatthana. In the satipatthana, we are in direct and permanent contact with reality. While during the training into samatha, we turn our mental concentration to a unique object of focusing, to the far extent that it is a mere mental fabrication. To know reality, there is nothing else that ought to be done except observing it. It is as simple as that. It is so simple, so basic, so stupid, that nobody had thought of it before Buddha. This latter teaches us that not only that satipatthana is much less difficult to develop than samatha, but that it is the only one that can lead us to nibbana, the cessation of all sufferings. Furthermore, It is not absolutely necessary to develop samatha so as to begin this training into satipatthana, or even to experience nibbana. On the contrary, in most of cases, an experience of samatha turns out to be a big obstacle in the satipatthana. Internal vision. Training. Training into satipatthana consists, as its name defined it, in turning one's attention to physical and mental phenomena, that is to say on the taste, olfactory, mental, tactile, auditory, visual sensations that we do perceive. As soon as attention is turned to the object of one of these sensations, a direct knowledge of reality does take place. This latter is simply known for the way it really is. At this stage, we could call it internal vision or insight, which is termed vipassana in Pali language. As to the one who did not yet train a lot in satipatthana or who just begins, this training can seem boring, painful, even difficult. It is worth knowing that, indeed, whatever the level of development might be, satipatthana is always easy. The only thing that is difficult, these are the numerous pointless efforts that one tends to do when one is a novice in that practice. Even though the mind cannot refrain from considering all the discomforts undergone during this training as taking part in vipassana, it is necessary indeed to well understand that it is not vipassana at all. Vipassana is the consequence of turning in a vivid manner the attention on an object, physical or mental. Only the slightest effort must be supplied, that is to say, right effort, so that this application of the attention can be made. There is no smaller effort to be done when we are mindful. All the difficulty lies in minimizing these pointless and plaguing efforts that the mind is so much used to produce. These pointless efforts simply lie in that our habit is not to let naturally flow all this stream of thoughts and mental wanderings, which fuse in excitement, or being mindful of what does occur within our mind. This way, called satipatthana, is a real rehabilitation of the mind. To reach nibbana, the final experience of this training, it is advisable to patiently train into satipatthana, by abandoning, for all the time being required, all other activities. It is aimed at allowing a more and more frequent rehearsal and moving closer to the moments of vipassana. Due to the progressive development of concentration, karnika samadhi, these moments of internal vision will become numerous and deep, so that will be experienced a feeling of continuous concentration. From this step onward, satipatthana will become much steadier and will continue almost naturally, useless efforts having been considerably reduced. Any person who trains for it seriously, by respecting the instructions that are given to him, according to the Dhamma teachings, and by dropping all other physical or mental activities, ended in some weeks, at the most, in such a stage of concentration. This being clearly expressed, it is always necessary to pay attention to possible comfortable sensations met during certain stages of satipatthana, because we easily tend to mistake them with permanent objects of the training, whereas they are mere consequences of concentration. They do not have anything to do with knowledge, either by means of eradication of impurities, or with wisdom, even though they often lead to very deep philosophical reflections. As soon as one becomes attached to them, he does make no further progress. The advantages of satipatthana. The advantages of the satipatthana are as inestimable as numerous. The one who listened to the teachings on satipatthana given by the Sangha, who relied on these teachings and who trains in them, regularly and naturally develops a good sila. During the satipatthana, even though we do not pay attention to it, we forcibly develop it. The one who trains this way is much less inclined to do things that are unhealthy or unprofitable. He is rather serene, mentally appeased, quiet. He is less inclined to be swayed apart by violent sentiments. He is more tolerant. When anger, jealousy or pride do appear, he is very soon aware of them. So, he has a more correct perception of reality. He masters a faster, easier and subtler understanding of Dhamma, of whose validity he can ascertain a daily and concrete confirmation. He often has an awareness that, even though they sometimes can remain unnoticed, kills us, such as anger, hatred, etc., is very deep. They are precious in helping us to reflect upon Dhamma teachings. He understood by himself that all that which can be experienced by consciousness inherently begets dissatisfaction, even the most pleasant sensations. He concretely sees that everything has a beginning, a duration and an end. Knowing this experimental viewpoint according to which everything comes to an end one day, one moment or the other, he becomes much less attached to things. He becomes less and less identified with things. He already knows that this is not me, I myself as such. When he hears singing a bird, he knows that it is not he who listens and that it is not a bird that sings, but that it is simply about a sound that manifests, nothing more than this. He knows it not because he reads it, but because his observation of phenomena allowed him, her, to directly perceive the characteristic of absence of self-inherent nature or existence in things. A person who regularly trains into satipatthana is better concentrated on his or her work, on his or her actions generally. He or she is then more competent. He or she has a better memory. He or she is more skillful in helping others. He or she positively influences his or her surrounding. So, he or she will be forcibly more respected, more appreciated. He or she will much more easily communicate with others. By having such a practice, such a person naturally less stirs at things. He or she is then less affected by daily concerns and so meets much less problems of any kinds. His or her health becomes better. He or she no longer faces boredom of any kind, because the intermediate moments of standby become good opportunities to note phenomena. Especially, he or she knows that boredom is something else than a feeling of impatience or fear while experiencing moments devoid of distractions or entertainment. He or she knows, in all cases, that boredom is an aversion towards a group of physical and mental phenomena, as whatever these latter will be, it is just sufficient to observe them so as to no longer be affected by the inconvenience. Everything becomes easier. Little by little, he or she gets much less involved into the world's business. Naturally, he or she becomes more and more free and gradually benefits from more and more auspicious conditions to continue the practice. All the ones who do integrate this practice in their daily life will enjoy only such advantages at their disposal. The more regular their practice will be, the more benefits will bloom, and the more motivation will prevail to do this training better and better. So, they will get all the chances to be reborn under favorable conditions. It will enable them to pursue their training on the path to liberation, also called the path of the happy medium, in a way getting easier and easier.